Hey there, Brian Liu here with Ashley Hathaway in her kitchen in sunny San Francisco. Ashley Hathaway is a nutritional therapy practitioner who's got a private practice here in San Francisco where she takes folks that have, let's say, unhappy bellies and gives them happy bellies through good nutrition. And so, Ashley, can you tell us more about how you got into the nutritional therapy?
Sure, Brian. I've always been sort of a quote health nut most of my life. My mom taught me how to cook. We spent a lot of time in the kitchen. She always used, for the most part, whole foods in their natural state, did a lot of cooking from scratch. And so that's sort of where I started from. And as I got older, I continued on that path, but I discovered something was sort of missing. I wasn't feeling as good as I could. And something was a little bit off. I would get stomach aches every once in a while and not tolerate some foods very well. And so ultimately, I figured out that I wasn't getting enough variety in my diet. I wasn't getting enough natural good bacteria from my foods. And I also I never supplemented with additional probiotics, healthy bacteria. And so eventually I discovered that all of these things made a huge difference. And I tried them on myself. I added more variety to my diet. I added more plant-based foods. I also added some additional probiotics. And all of a sudden, I felt better. I slept better. I was more alert. And everything just seemed to work better and feel better. And so in discovering that, I said to myself, I really want to help other people achieve this better level of health, to feel better. And all the while, we're just using, the foods and the things that are available to us right here on Earth, essentially. So then I quit my job of 20 years in the video and film business to go back to school and get my certification through the Nutritional Therapy Association, and then opened up my private practice to help other people feel better and use essentially whole foods and probiotics to do that.
That's great. Can you tell us more about your philosophy about the foods that we have here? I mean, how do you look at a plant, like some vegetables? It sounds like you look at it not just from parts of the plant, but I mean like the nutrients, but you look at the whole thing, it seems like, in its
Right.
environment.
Well, yeah, I mean, the word whole is important here, right? So what we want to do is we want to eat foods, whole foods, in their natural state as much as possible. And so what that means, and that actually goes for any food, really, whether it's an animal food, or a plant-based food, or perhaps even an extractive food. It comes from the actual whole food itself. So my philosophy is, utilize the foods that we have available to us in their whole natural form as much as possible. And of course that involves sometimes a little bit of cooking. Sometimes, you're eating foods in their raw state. And so, there's variables there. But one of the most important things about foods that come from the earth is that they contain substances that, again, really help us with this, what a lot of us are calling the microbiome, which is the makeup of, the environment of our guts. And so my philosophy also is it's important to use foods from the earth because they provide us, number one, with a fuel source of food for the good bacteria that resides in our guts. And number two, they actually contain bacteria from the earth that they grow in. So there's a source of food for bacteria, and there's actually a source of bacteria on these, foods essentially from the earth, whole natural foods.
Understood. Yes, I understand. For example, people they make kimchi or sauerkraut
Right.
out of these products by simply cutting them up, putting some salt on it, maybe some anchovies
Right.
and peppers if you're doing kimchi,
Right.
using a Napa cabbage. Or
Sure.
sauerkraut, they just let it sit, and then before you know it, it sours up because there's lactobacillus on there. So it's a fermented vegetable.
Yep.
And then sometimes we find out that even these aren't strong enough, so we have to resort to things like a stronger probiotic,
Right.
much like a Liovi is. People are finding out.
Yes, exactly. So that's exactly what I did when I wanted to feel better. You know, whole foods are wonderful. They provide obviously wonderful nutrition. They provide lots of unique nutrients, and they have their own unique bacteria naturally occurring. But we also want to introduce, if possible, other sources of bacteria. And sometimes, that's when it's really helpful to include something like Liovi, which has its own unique bacteria. And so you're bringing in more variety of those bacteria. And that's just as important as variety of foods in the diet, because you want to have that, those different sources. You want to have as much variety in the healthy bacteria that, again, creates a healthy microbiome.